I want you to picture this like a slow-moving film that suddenly catches fire in the first scene, because that is exactly how the public first learned of the persons involved in this case. It's January 2023, and a Peugeot is discovered burning beside the M61 near Bolton. Not a minor breakdown, not a fender bender, but a car abandoned in a way that makes police stop and look twice. Firefighters arrive, and it quickly becomes clear the occupants didn't wait around to explain anything. Then investigators find something that flips the entire incident from odd to urgent. Evidence of a very recent birth, including a decomposing placenta inside the car. That single discovery triggers a nationwide alarm because it means there is almost certainly a newborn out there, and nobody knows if that baby is warm, fed, or even alive. Now here's where the case becomes as much about disappearance as it is about the tragedy that follows.
Please help us make 1,000 subscribers by the year end. Make sure to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and leave comments down below so I can find out what content you'd like to see, and I will reply to everyone. Don't forget to hit the bell to be notified as soon as the next video drops.
Comes as much about disappearance as it is about the tragedy that follows. Constance Marten comes from a wealthy, aristocratic background. By the time of this fifth pregnancy, her 4 older children had already been taken into care and adopted. That matters, because it's the context prosecutors said explained the decisions that came next. The pregnancy was concealed. There were no antenatal checks, no postnatal checks, no registered birth, no safety net, no official trail at all. So when that car is found burning and the birth evidence is discovered, the authorities respond like a clock starting to scream. The alert goes out. Media coverage is intense. Police are looking for 2 adults and 1 newborn baby, and the baby is the emergency. For weeks, Marten and Mark Gordon move across the country. Investigators later laid out a timeline of travel that ends on the south coast. By 8th January 2023, the couple are in a tent near New Haven. And if you've ever stood outside on a British January night, you already know why this next part lands so hard. The prosecution position was simple and chilling. A newborn does not stand a chance in freezing winter conditions without proper shelter, warmth, medical checks, and basic care. Somewhere after they arrive near New Haven, the baby dies. And this is one of those moments where you have to pause, because the legal story and the human story collide. The cause of death could not be definitively established, in part because of the state of the baby's remains when she was eventually found. Expert evidence at trial was that the cause was unascertained, and that neither hypothermia nor smothering could be ruled out. But what made the case so stark, so prosecutable, was what prosecutors said happened around the death. The baby was not taken to a hospital, not brought to a GP, not presented to any authority. Instead, the couple stayed hidden and the baby's body was concealed. Here's how the discovery unfolded. On 27th of February 2023, after nearly 8 weeks of searching, Marten and Gordon are finally located in Brighton. They're arrested in the Hollingdean area, the detail that keeps getting repeated in coverage and in court, because it's the detail that makes your stomach drop, is that they were found without the baby. So police do what you would expect in a situation where time might still be life or death. They press them, immediately, repeatedly, for the baby's location. But the couple refused to give it. No directions, no landmarks, no she's with a friend, no we left her somewhere safe. Just silence. At that point, the response becomes a full-scale ground search. Officers, specialist resources, and search capability are thrown into the area between Brighton and the nearby coast. The goal is not solve a case. The goal is find a baby. 2 days later, on the 1st of March 2023, searchers find the remains of the infant in a shed with a broken window pane. She is inside a plastic bag for life, along with items connected to the couple's camp. That's when this flips from a missing persons emergency into a homicide investigation. And the authorities' immediate investigation has two tracks running at once. One is the forensic track. Establish identity, establish timeline, establish cause of death, if at all possible, and document the concealment. The other is the conduct track. What decisions were made, what risks were obvious, and how avoidable the death may have been if the baby had been brought into contact with healthcare and shelter. Even the name becomes part of the story. In public discussion, the baby is often referred to as Victoria, while court documents also use Baby A. The CPS press release refers to Baby Victoria, and this is the child the justice system is ultimately speaking for. Now, legally, this case takes the long route. There wasn't just one clean trial and a neat verdict. In 2024, there was a major trial in which Marten and Gordon were found guilty of concealing the birth, child cruelty, and perverting the course of justice. But the jury could not reach verdicts on the more serious counts relating to the baby's death. That matters because it explains why the story comes back around with even heavier consequences later. The CPS sought a retrial on the manslaughter allegation. In the retrial, prosecutors leaned hard into risk. Not a vague moral argument, risk in a measurable, evidential way. Fresh expert evidence was used to explain the environmental conditions and how exposure to near-freezing temperatures, wind and damp could create what the CPS described as a high-risk situation for a newborn in a tent, including the effect of condensation and wet clothing and sleeping bags. The argument wasn't they were poor or they were unlucky. It was they chose the worst possible conditions and blocked every lifeline that could have saved her. On 14th of July 2025, both Constance Marten and Mark Gordon were convicted of gross negligence manslaughter. And then, on 15th of September 2025, at the Old Bailey, the sentencing lands. 14 years imprisonment for Marten and 14 years for Gordon, with Gordon also receiving an extended license period of 4 years after release. The sentences for the other offences, 18 months for concealing the birth, 18 months for child cruelty, and 5 years for perverting the course of justice, were ordered to run concurrently. Now let me slow down here, because gross negligence manslaughter can sound clinical, and it shouldn't. In plain terms, the conviction means the jury accepted that the way they chose to live and the way they chose to avoid authorities created a grossly unsafe situation for a newborn, and that the negligence was so serious it became criminal. It's not about a single moment of panic, it's about a sustained set of decisions over time where the risks were obvious and the opportunity to do something different kept appearing, and they didn't take it. The judge's sentencing remarks also underline what the court saw as aggravating features: the background of prior care proceedings, repeated warnings from professionals, and the additional harm caused by hiding the baby's remains in a way that frustrated a proper examination of how she died. If you're asking what the interesting or significant facts are that shaped the case, there are a few that the official record keeps circling back to, because they go to motive and to control. One is the contrast at the heart of the story. Marten's privileged background versus the reality of off-grid, living in winter with a newborn. That contrast wasn't used to sensationalize, it was used to highlight that options existed. It wasn't a situation where a parent had nowhere to turn, it was a situation where turning toward help risked losing the child, and prosecutors said that fear drove everything. Another is the discovery itself. The whole nationwide search ignites because of what's left behind in that burning car. This is not a case where police randomly stumbled across 2 missing adults. It's a case where physical evidence forced the state to treat it as a newborn-at-risk emergency from day one. And then there's the post-arrest silence about the baby's location. When police found them in Brighton, the baby was not with them, and the refusal to disclose where she was turned an already massive investigation into a frantic search that ended in a shed, with a bag with a broken window. As for where things stand right now, legally, as of late 2025, the convictions and sentences are in place, and they are serving custodial terms. Earlier in the legal process, applications for leave to appeal relating to the 2024 convictions were refused by the Court of Appeal. Some reporting has indicated that further appeal applications were being pursued in relation to the manslaughter conviction after the 2025 retrial. But the existence of an application does not. So let's start with the core question at the heart of this case. When the case of R.V. Marten and Gordon reached the Court of Appeal, the judges were not being asked to decide how the baby died. That part is important. What they were being asked to decide was whether Constance Marten and Mark Gordon had been properly and safely convicted of criminal offenses, linked to how they treated their newborn child, known in court as Baby A, even though doctors could not say for certain what caused her death. In simple terms, the appeal court had to answer this. Was it fair and lawful to convict these parents when the medical cause of death couldn't be pinned down, or had something gone wrong in the trial? Now, to understand why this mattered, you have to step back to how this situation began. Constance Marten secretly became pregnant with her fifth child. This wasn't her first encounter with social services. Her four older children had already been taken into care and adopted. Against that background, Marten and Gordon made a decision. They hid the pregnancy, they avoided doctors, they avoided midwives, and after the baby was born around Christmas 2022, they chose to live completely off-grid with a newborn during the middle of a British winter. Then, in January 2023, their car caught fire. Inside that burned-out vehicle, authorities found clear signs that a baby had recently been born. That discovery triggered a nationwide search. The concern wasn't theoretical. Police were urgently looking for a newborn baby who might be cold, hungry, or in danger. Sometime after that, Baby A died. When Marten and Gordon were eventually arrested, the baby was not with them. Her remains were later found hidden inside a plastic shopping bag placed in a shed. When expert pathologists examined what was left, they reached a difficult conclusion. They could not say exactly how the baby died. Hypothermia could not be ruled out. Smothering could not be ruled out. The cause of death was officially recorded as unascertained. And this is where the legal argument really begins. At their trial in 2024, prosecutors did not have to prove exactly how Baby A died in order to secure convictions on several charges. The law doesn't always require a clear cause of death. What the prosecution focused on instead was behavior over time. They argued that Marten and Gordon knowingly chose to raise a newborn in freezing winter conditions without proper shelter, without reliable warmth, without medical care, and while exhausted. And they said this wasn't a one-off mistake.
Please help us make 1,000 subscribers by the year end. Make sure to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and leave comments down below so I can find out what content you'd like to see, and I will reply to everyone. Don't forget to hit the bell to be notified as soon as the next video drops.
And they said this wasn't a one-off mistake or a single bad night. It was a pattern of